So I'm not gonna lie, almost forgot to do the preview of these two playoff games that's gonna be happening tomorrow. And I was originally going to do the preview right after when I finish upload the review of the Vancouver Whitecaps versus Sporting KC game. But yeah, I literally forgot it about right as when I go to SF to do a little ground haul today. And now that I am back home, it is a little bit late, but you know the old saying, it's better late than never to do this preview. So let us actually get to it, talk about these two games, with the first one that is going to be between NYCFC versus Atlanta United, and the second one is going to be between the Portland Timbers versus Minnesota United. And what's interesting is that both of these games is going to be games between the fourth seed versus the fifth seed. And in this first game, of course, NYCFC is the fourth seed after finishing fourth in the Eastern Conference with a record of 14, 9, 11, and 51 points. Atlanta United, of course, is the fifth seed after finishing fifth in the Eastern Conference. They also had 51 points, but NYCFC does have the tiebreaker on wins, as Atlanta just missed out on one win where they had a record of 13, 12, and 9. And again, for Atlanta, they definitely will be thinking about that game. Remember when they played against NYCFC down the stretch where they were on verge of potentially getting a win in that game, and then they gave up a late goal, and that was like the first goal that NYCFC scored in like 400 plus minute. Yeah, they're definitely going to be thinking about that moment, because if they would have won that game, they would have been hosting this playoff game against NYCFC instead of the other way around. But nevertheless, this game will start at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, and the actual kickoff is 3:18 p.m. local time. And this time, this game is going to be on national television. It is going to be on. It's actually not going to be on ESPN, but it's actually going to be on their sister network, ABC, and this game is going to be on ESPN. By the way, I had a lot of people that was complaining about the fact that they couldn't watch the stream that was on the league website, and I think I can understand why there was a lot of frustration with the way that I think the league website, when they show both of those playoff games, they were only available in the US. So if you are from Canada and you're trying to watch it, it just does not work whatsoever. And I think some Vancouver fans was kind of also frustrated that they couldn't watch the game, but I think that game between the Whitecaps and Sporting KC was on TSN, so I don't think those people that complained that they couldn't watch it has any excuse if the game is already going to be on TSN. But nevertheless, these two games is actually going to be on TV. And in this game between NYCFC versus Atlanta United, oh, by the way, let us actually go through the top goal scorer before we get to the last five head-to-head, which is something that I forgot to mention in my preview, looking at the Union versus the Red Bulls and Sporting KC versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. But in terms of the top goal scorer for NYCFC, they of course have not only the top goal scorer in their team in Tati Castellanos with 19 goals, but he also is the top goal scorer in the league after winning the Golden Boot. Followed by that, you got Jesus Medina with 9 goals, Ishmael Tajuri Shradi with 7 goals, Thiago Adrande with 4 goals, and Keaton Parks, who is going to be done for the season after that scary blood clot situation that he had after the season is over. He of course finished the season with 4 goals. For Atlanta United, oh, look at that. Joseph Martinez. Yeah, he's definitely back. I mean, he is quietly started to have a 12-goal season. And I say quietly in a literal sense, because I don't think a lot of people have been talking about how Joseph Martinez is started to score goals again. And especially, I mean, we knew this was coming, where even though he kind of struggled early this season in terms of putting the ball into the back net, he was still trying to get himself 100% healthy after that ACL injury that he suffered in the previous year. And you can definitely sense that he started to look like the Joseph Martinez of old. And when he is started to look like the Joseph Martinez of old, not only that's great news for Atlanta United fans, but that's bad news for the rest of the league, because you know that when Joseph Martinez is in his best, he is basically the best goal scorer in the league. Then you got Marcelino Moreno with 9 goals, followed by Ezekiel Barco with 7 goals. Then you got one of their new signing this summer, Luis Araujo with 4 goals, followed by Anton Walks with 2 goals. Last 5 head-to-head for both of these teams. It was a 1-1 draw between both of these teams, but like I said, that was the game where, yeah, Atlanta fans are gonna feel like if they would have lived just hold on to the end, they would have had a chance to watch their team play at home. Besides that, NYCFC did win the only meeting that was at Yankee Stadium this season, winning 1-0 at home before winning 4-1 at home against Atlanta United. Then Atlanta did win 2-1 against NYCFC, and then Atlanta, of course, winning 3-1 against NYCFC. And keep in mind, NYCFC have never lost to Atlanta United at Yankee Stadium, which, by the way, one of the key points I kind of want to mention is that this game indeed will be played at Yankee Stadium. I mean, I know for the past couple of years in terms of some of these playoff games that NYCFC had, it's been kind of questionable where exactly they play. Like, sometimes they play at Citi Field and stuff for some of their playoff game, but no, this time indeed it's going to be at Yankee Stadium. And also, the other key points coming in, I've talked about this before and I'm going to mention again, is this finally the playoffs where the playoff failure narrative finally ends for NYCFC? I mean, they have the talent on paper to go on a deep playoff run, but like I said, I just still don't believe that this team can go into the deep playoff run unless if these talented players can finally pull through in the playoffs. And I know all narrative eventually does come to an end, but if you ask their intercity rival, the New York Red Bulls, they probably say, yeah, not that always isn't the case with the way that after they just suffer another their very metro kind of loss against the Philadelphia Union in the playoffs. The other thing that to watch out for in terms of this game is that how will Atlanta adapt playing on a narrow field with their free-flowing style. I mean, it's no surprise that Atlanta has had trouble playing against NYCFC at Yankee Stadium because we know Yankee Stadium has the narrowest field in the league, and we have also seen a lot of teams that have trouble in terms of dealing with playing on a narrow field, but especially for Atlanta United, when they do play that free-flowing style, you don't want to play that in a narrow field. You always tend to struggle in terms of doing that. So let's see, maybe they might finally learn some ways to still play that free flowing style despite the fact that they're playing in the narrow confine that is Yankee Stadium. And then also the other thing that is look out for this is that I expect there should be goals in this game. I mean, I don't think this is going to be like what we saw in that other Eastern Conference game between the Union versus the Red Bulls, which I know a lot of people have said it's a kind of a snooze fest, but I kind of warn people that it might be a bit of a snooze fest and it could be a very tight kind of game. Well, the good news is this should not be a tight game. I expect there should be goals in this game, and this could be a high scoring game depending on if both attack can be on point. But like I said, at the end of the day, when I did my prediction, I did pick Atlanta to beat NYCFC, and I did pick that, even though they have never won there, I think this might be finally the time to do so. And that's really kind of almost solely to the fact that I still don't trust NYCFC with even all the talent that they had. I don't trust the fact that, with all the playoff narrative that they never tend to perform, it's hard to trust a team that have had those playoff futility, and unless if they can get through it, it's hard to trust them to pull through into the next round. But it's also to the fact that I think Atlanta, a lot of people haven't really talked about a lot about them, which again, it's kind of weird that not many people talk about how Atlanta is started to making a slow comeback to a team that we know that they can be the contender that they are in the Eastern Conference. And in this game, they can definitely show the rest of the league that Atlanta indeed is back, and that they are going to try to beat NYCFC to move on into the next round of the playoffs. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Portland Timbers versus Minnesota. So like I said earlier, another prediction I made is that the Timbers, of course, would beat my team. And, as much as I want to kind of root for my team to win this game, that also means that if they do win this game, the team that I picked to win MLS Cup is pretty much eliminated after the first round, which I know that's when, if that does happen, I know Timbers fans are going to come for my heads, because I jinxed them, and again I do apologize that I jinxed them in advance. But there's a lot of reason why I see that this team is capable of not only making an MLS Cup run but also winning the whole whole thing. But first of all, this game will start at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. The actual kickoff is 2:38 p.m. local time, as this game is going to be on ESPN. The Timbers, of course, finished fourth in the Western Conference with a record of 17-4-13 with 55 points, while Minnesota, of course, finished fifth in the West with a record of 13-10-11 and have 49 points. Top scorer for the Timbers, you got Felipe Mora with 11 goals, followed by Darren Asprilla, who has had a career year this season with 10 goals. Then you got Sebastian Blanco with 7 goals, Jimmy Chara with 6 goals, and Yaroslav Niskoda, who started to come back from injury and started to look like that lethal goal scorer that when he came onto the scene for this Timbers side, already have 3 goals in his short couple of appearances that he has in the latter part of the season. For the Loons, unsurprisingly, Robin Lod is really the only consistent goal scorer for this team with 9 goals. But then you got Adrian Hunou, who, I know a lot of people, including myself, was kind of frustrated of how Hunou wasn't really performing with this team and wasn't really the kind of living up the expectation of the price tag that the Loons bought him in the middle of the season, but slowly he started to kind of figure it out. And I guess maybe who knew, this is kind of an example of a player that, when he's coming to MLS, a league that he's unknown of, or coming to a country that he's never been to, it's going to take time for players to kind of get going. And this is also kind of the reason why, as much as I was kind of frustrated at time with how Adrian Hunou performed, I didn't just simply say that we should just get rid of this guy. And I know some Loons fans did say that. If you're one of them, I guess you probably should admit yourself. But as frustrated as I was always thinking that eventually who knew his luck is going to turn around, and eventually he's going to figure out. And down the stretch, he has definitely started to figure out and started to be the goal scorer that we expected him to be for this team. Then you got Franco Fragapane with 5 goals, followed by Emmanuel Reynoso with 5 goals. Then you got Ethan Finley to round up the top 5 list with 3 goals for Minnesota. Last 5 head-to-head matchup, I mentioned before how the Loons, they have really been one of those teams that just figure out the Portland Timbers, because the last five meetings, it's pretty much been all in favor of Minnesota. Well, except for one of the meeting where it was a draw, but the 4 out of the last 5 meeting has really gone in favor of Minnesota. And it all started with them winning 2-1 against the Timbers at home before winning 1-0 on the road against the Timbers. Then all the way back into 2020 before the world basically kind of gone through a bit of a doomsday scenario. The Loons did win 3-1 against the Timbers before it was a 0-0 draw between both of these teams, and then Minnesota, of course, winning 1-0 against the Portland Timbers at home. Now, the key points in this game is that I think this game also could feature some goals, though that also depends on the fact that whether or not if both backline is going to be a bit stable in this one. I mean, I talk about how the Timbers backline, it's been a problem this season, and the fact that when you can see the second most goal out of all these playoff teams, yeah, that should be definitely be a bit of a concern. But I'm also concerned about this Minnesota back line too, especially the way that they've been very inconsistent down the stretch. Like, there's times where they can be looking like that lockdown back line that we saw from this Loons team a couple years ago, and then at times they look like they were the team from the first 4 games of the season, which is just letting goals in, or the team that looks like an expansion team in the first 2 years, where it's just like almost them giving Christmas present every single game with the amount of goals that they gave up each game. So yeah, that could be a factor of why there could be a lot of goals in this one. But the other thing that is the key points for this is that, do the Loons have plan B on the attack if Reynoso gets shut down? I mean, I know Reynoso is going to be the main factor of this, and I know some people might think that I was going to put the key points as saying, can Reynoso replicate what he did in the last playoffs? But for me, I think the bigger question is that if Reynoso does get shut down, what is plan B for this Loons team on the attack? And that's what kind of scares me, because there really isn't a plan B. Like, throughout the season, I've seen when Reynoso does get shut down, this team just does not do anything on the attack. And I know the Timbers, their game plan is going to try to shut him down, and I think the plan to shut him down is pretty much ganging up on him and maybe even foul him at time to kind of agitate him, because there's times where I know Reynoso has been fouled a lot by opposition, and you can see he can get frustrated by always getting fouls and get agitated like that. So, knowing the fact that that could be a huge possibility in this game, do for once this team has a plan B where maybe everything doesn't need to go through Reynoso. I mean, most of the thing will still go through Reynoso, but I just think that there has to be another player on this team that need to step up in terms of the creative department, and in many ways I don't know who exactly it is, and that's why I just don't have confidence coming into the playoffs with this team. Not just because also the fact that they have also been very inconsistent this season. The other thing to look out for this game and for the Timbers, again, will the Timbers backline hold up throughout this playoffs? I mean, it has gone better down the stretch. They got back-to-back clean sheet. Well, actually, no, they didn't get back-to-back clean sheet. I forgot that they did concede a goal against RSL, and it was very, very late. But they did get a clean sheet coming into the playoffs, though. You could say that they got a clean sheet against Austin, which, maybe that might not be as impressive than when you do face against some of the best team in the league and in the Western Conference throughout this playoff. So I'm definitely going to be watching out for this Timbers backline and whether or not if they're going to hold up in this playoffs, because if they can, I think this is an MLS Cup contender. And then the last thing I want to write in terms of the key points, and usually I put only 3 key points, but I decided to add a 4th one as a bonus, is the fact that, yeah, Darren Asprilla, it's inevitable. He's going to either score or assist an important goal in this game. I mean, they don't call him Mr. November for a reason, and, this season I mentioned how Darren Asprilla, not only the fact that he's broken that curse of the fact that he's only allowed to score or in the playoffs, or unless the calendar month is October or November, but he has just having a career year, and down the stretch it doesn't seem like he is slowed down any moment. And I also truly believe that, as much as I know a lot of people talk about Sebastian Blanco being the key player for this Timber side, I argue Darren Asprilla could also be that key player, because when you score so many important goals down the stretch, and especially in the playoffs, you have to be considered they're one of the most important player, if not the most important player with the season that Darren Asprilla has had. So there's no doubt that I think him alongside with Sebastian Blanco is going to be key to that Timbers attack. But I'll just also say that tomorrow I won't be surprised if he score a goal, because that's what he does. He loves to score goals in the biggest occasion, and we'll see how many, if he is going to score in this playoffs when the Timbers are hoping to go for a late playoff push and maybe even winning the MLS Cup again. But either way, that is pretty much it for the preview for both of these games. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of both of these games, and let me know in the comments your prediction for both of these games too. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.